What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is MP with MP Talk Sports, and we have some all around sports news today. So let's get into it. First things first is that Diana Taurasi announced her retirement from the WNBA after 20 seasons. She was drafted first overall in 2004 by the Phoenix Mercury, and she spent her entire career there. And over the course of her career, so many accomplishments, starting in college where she went to UConn. She was a three-time NCAA champion. In the WNBA, she was the 2004 Rookie of the Year, an 11-time WNBA All-Star, a WNBA MVP in 2009, three-time WNBA champion, and a two-time Finals MVP. She's the WNBA all-time leading scorer with 10,646 points. She's hit more threes than anyone in WNBA history. She's fourth all time in assists, and she is a six-time Olympic gold medalist, which is an all-time record for a basketball player. Now she knew that it was time to walk away. She she felt full and happy with her career, and she's ready to move on. And it's a real shame that over the course of Diana's career, that the attention for the WNBA kind of fell off. And it wasn't until a few years ago where, the Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Camila Cardozo brought back that attention when they were in college. And that kind of just transferred over into the WNBA when they all got drafted. But, which was great. But the WNBA and Diana deserved attention way before them. So she did, even though the attention fell off, Diana Taurasi did make a ginormous impact. I mean, she made one on me. I was that young girl, that preteen, that teenager that looked up to her, wanted to be like her. I followed her, and she was the reason why I wore number 3 when I played. And I will never ever forget the time her rookie year when we went to go see her at Mohegan Sun when they played Connecticut. Me and my friend yelled her name from the stands, and she turned and waved at us, and that was literally the best day of my life. And I will never forget how stoked I was, how crazy it was to even be in the same building as her. Um, so I do thank you, Diana, for such an amazing career, and you are a WNBA legend. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the New York Yankees rule change of the facial hair policy. Now, they've had this facial hair policy since 1976. And the reason for the change was that they were concerned that players would not want to come and play in New York due to the facial hair policy. And since this generation of players are huge on their beards, it's the beards are basically a part of their identities. And I know that it's an old rule, it's a very outdated rule, but I don't necessarily feel like you should change a rule that you've had for almost 50 years to accommodate all the other players in the MLB. On the other side though, I do feel like you need to keep up with the time changes. Like I said, this is a whole new generation. This whole new generation loves their beards. They love their facial hair. Um, you know, and I know that Aaron Judge also said that he didn't really agree with it either. He did say that he's going to stay shaved and he's going to keep his haircut the way it is. He's obviously not going to have his hair on his collar. Um, but he felt like it was a silly reason why it would be a silly reason for players to not want to come to New York because of the facial hair policy. And I do agree with him. I agree with him 100% on that, but they do need to keep up with the new generation. They do. Like I said, it's an outdated rule. So Aaron Judge also did say that obviously, besides it being a silly reason not to come, he is happy on the other side. He is happy that it will open the doors now to players to who wouldn't have thought about coming to New York to now come to New York because they're able to keep their beard. And if that opens the doors for players to come there, that's going to help them win, then he is obviously all for it, but he will follow the old facial hair policy rule. And the Yankees started spring training on February 21st, and they are currently 2-3 in spring training. In other MLB news, this one is nuts to me. The MLB now has a pitch challenge rule. Now, the players will be able to challenge a ball or a strike. Only a pitcher, batter, or catcher can challenge, and must do it immediately after the umpire makes the call. So that way there's no influence from the dugout. And they're going to use cameras from all around the ballpark that will be able to determine exactly where a pitch was located when it crossed home plate. And this whole thing should take about 15 to 20 seconds. And each team gets 2 challenges to start the game. And if the challenge is successful, they get to keep their challenge. But if it's unsuccessful, they lose their challenge. Now, this one's nuts to me. It's crazy to me that I I get it. I get that wrong pitch calls can determine a game just like in any sport. Any sport, the wrong call can determine the whole entire outcome of a game, especially in important games. But there's some things that I feel like only the catcher should be able to call a challenge. And I also feel like there should be a cap on how many successful challenges you can have because you can do this all game. You can do this all game and you can be right on every single one of them and just keep going and just keep going and just keep going. Granted, if you are, that means that umpire sucks with pitch calling, but didn't they it was last year or the year before. They they introduced the pitch clock, and they introduced the pitch clock because they wanted to make the baseball games more interesting because they wanted to take time off of it. They wanted to take time off of the game, and they didn't want, pitchers and batters to dilly-dally while during the game. And the reason why they introduced that was to reduce the time. Now they just added a rule that it's going to take it could take around 15 to 20 seconds each time there's a challenge. But now you just added something a rule that is going to now again add time back to the game. And like I said, you can just keep going and going and going and going and going. So I do believe that there should be a cap on how many successful challenges you can have. But I was reading this article and they were saying that the batters that want to challenge a pitch, they have like such bad anxiety about it because they don't want to like lose the challenge and shit like that. But that's that's nuts. So it seems like the batters are not going to be using it a lot. I think the catcher has the best the best view on where a pitch is when it crosses home plate. So I do think that the catcher should be the one calling it, but there's got to be some type of cap. There's got to be some type of challenge control with this. Granted, if you keep challenging and succeeding, then that means that umpire sucks. But I don't know how much of a problem this is going to be, and I don't foresee it being a ginormous problem, but there could be games where it becomes a problem with certain umpires and things like that. Um, but I just don't like how it would add time to a game. I like the pitch clock rule because it did make everything more interesting. It did take time off of the game, but adding something else that's going to put time back on it. I don't know if I like it. I like how you can now challenge a pitch, but I don't know. This was nuts to me. This was nuts that this was even a thing. It was. But we'll see how it works out for the MLB this year. A few nights ago in the NBA, the Dallas Mavericks traveled to LA and played the Lakers, and it was the first time that Luka was able to play against the team that unexpectedly traded him earlier this month and traded him for Anthony Davis. Now, Luka did get to start in this game, but Anthony Davis was on the bench dealing with that groin injury, and Luka went off in this game. He made a nice shot and just immediately turned around and did such a stare down to the Mavericks bench. And just, this was such a revenge game for him. And he finished the game with a triple double. He had 19 points, 12 assists, 15 rebounds, on top of 3 steals and 2 blocks, and LA got the win. The score was 99 to 107. And you could tell that Luka was pissed, especially with that stare down. And Dallas reasoning behind the trade was that they were concerned that Luka was lacking in conditioning and that he was injury prone. But yet, they got Anthony Davis, who literally got injured in his first game in Dallas, and he has not returned since. And that was on February 8th. That was on February 8th. So they trade Luka because, oh, his conditioning, oh, he's injury prone and blah blah blah. And then Anthony Davis comes in. He was doing great that game too, I'm pretty sure. And then injures himself and doesn't return since while Luka's been playing in LA. I was so happy for Luka. I was so happy that he played such a great game. And I'm also wicked happy that the Lakers beat the Mavericks because the Mavericks were stupid for trading him. I could not believe that when I heard it. Could not believe it. They missed out. They're gonna regret that. They're gonna regret every bit of trading Luka. Not saying that Anthony Davis was a bad. It it wasn't the right trade off at all. I think Anthony Davis is way more of a liability than Luka is. Way more of a liability. It's been proven. But again, so happy for Luka that he was able to show off and show up in front of the Dallas Mavericks. So there is a few things going on in the NFL. The NFL is now considering changing the kickoff for the second year in a row. Now, last year, they changed the kickoff rule to have a landing zone. So between the goal line to the 20-yard line was the landing zone, and the receiving team could have blockers between the 30 and the 35-yard line. The kicking team had 10 players lined up at the returning team's 40-yard line, and both teams couldn't move until the ball hit the ground or hit a player in the landing zone. The touchback was also moved up from the receiving team's 25-yard line to the 30-yard line. And this was done to encourage more kick returns, and it did its job. There were 332 more returns in 2024 than there were in 2023. And we did have bigger plays, and it prevented injuries, but this achieved its goal. And now they're considering two options. They're either going to change the touchback to, instead of the 30-yard line, they're going to put it to the 35-yard line. And instead of, or they're going to move the kicker back 5 yards. Now, they did say that this was going to take them a little while to come to this decision, but I do not agree with this at all. I think the only thing that would make sense would be to move the kicker back 5 yards, but I don't think that a touchback should be moved up from the 30-yard line to the 35-yard line. Moving the kicker back 5 yards and keeping it the way that it is right now is the best option for me. I think that would be the best option. I don't think that the 35-yard line is, you're putting, why do you need to put them closer to midfield? you're putting them closer to midfield, and now you're putting them a lot closer to field goal range with how far kickers can make field goals these days. I just think it's ridiculous. Move the kicker back 5 yards, but I don't think that. Why do you even need to change it? It it achieved its goal last year. What more do you want out of that? It just doesn't make sense to me. I think they should keep it the way that it is. There's Move the kicker back 5 yards. Problem solved. Problem solved. Don't put the ball up to the 35-yard line. That's just absolutely ridiculous. But there is something that I do agree with is I do feel like we should ban the tush push. Now, the Packers have proposed a rule to ban it. And that's something that the Eagles have done very well over the past seasons, and I know that they have talked about banning this in past seasons, especially since it's so successful. It's super hard to defend. It's basically an automatic first down or a automatic touchdown. And this isn't just a regular quarterback sneak. This is guys pushing you from behind to aid you in going forward. And there used to be a rule that you couldn't do that. You couldn't aid. Hold on, let me. You could not push or aid the runner in any way, and that rule no longer exists. But I do think that they should bring that rule back because I personally don't like the tush push. I think it's a cop out, to be honest. And I know that I know that the Eagles are the ones that do it best, and they obviously practiced that and perfected that, but it's not a football play. And they did do it in the Super Bowl. I'm pretty sure it was the first touchdown that they had in the Super Bowl. And if that came down, which obviously it didn't, if that came down to just one touchdown and that was the touchdown that was acquired to win that game, that's bullshit to me. Obviously you're going to like it if it's helping your team win, but I just don't. It's not a football play. It's not. And I do think that they should ban it. Go back to the regular quarterback sneak. That was fine. But pushing the quarterback into the end zone or pushing him down to a first down, that's a huge thing. It's a huge thing. I do agree that this should be banned. And I know that the Eagles and other teams have had success with it. They're great at executing it, which is fine, but like I don't it's again, I just feel like it's a cop out. So I do agree with the Packers on this. I don't like the tush push and I think they should ban it. They should go back to that old rule of not being able to push or aid the runner in any way and we just eliminate the tush push in general. But that's all I got for you today. If you like my videos, please like and subscribe. I'm MP and this is MP Talk Sports.